Disciplined thinking operates through the first sense. You cannot sustain thinking upon what is recognized within, without the first sense being the active instrument, because only the first sense perceives what is within. The five senses cannot perceive the seed, they can only perceive what has already physically expressed. So disciplined thinking, which is thinking sustained upon what is recognized within, is always, by definition, thinking operating through the first sense. This is the 7-minute daily focus, day 175 of 365, to focus on the world within from the world without. Today's focus, the law of disciplined thinking, the first sense and disciplined thinking. Pause for a moment. Disciplined thinking operates through the first sense. This is not incidental. This is precise. You cannot sustain thinking upon what is recognized within, without the first sense being the active instrument, because only the first sense perceives what is within. The five senses cannot perceive the seed, they can only perceive what has already physically expressed. So disciplined thinking, which is thinking sustained upon what is recognized within, is always, by definition, thinking operating through the first sense. Pause for a moment. This is why opening the first sense is the first act of the morning practice, not to prepare, not to warm up, but because opening the first sense is the opening of the instrument through which disciplined thinking operates. Without the first sense active, there is nothing within to be recognized, no seed perceived, no direction given, no ground to return to. With the first sense active, recognition is alive. The seed is perceived directly. Thinking has its object, not from condition, not from appearance, from within, from primary reality, from the metaphysical ground. And from that object, disciplined thinking is natural, not effortful, natural. Thought is within, effect is without. Thinking stands between. Pause for a moment. Understand also that the first sense is not passive. The first sense opens, it perceives, it recognizes. These are active operations. The thinker who opens the first sense in the morning is performing the most active thing possible. They are activating the instrument of primary reality before anything else in the day has claimed their attention. And that activation carries. The first sense opened first continues to perceive throughout the day, not loudly, not insistently, but available. The quiet signal from within, steady beneath the noise of conditions, that the seed is still there, still developing, still real. Disciplined thinking, operating through the first sense, never loses the thread of what is within, even when conditions are most persistent. Even when what is physically seen is most insistent, the first sense maintains the connection. And connection maintained is development sustained. Pause for a moment. So the practice is simple. And it is complete. Open the first sense before the day begins. Recognize the seed through it. Direct thinking upon what has been recognized. And through the day, return through the first sense. When thinking has followed conditions, this is disciplined thinking operating through its instrument. No more than this, no less than this, precisely this, and practiced consistently. This is everything the seed requires to reach its full physical expression. Pause. The first sense is what makes disciplined thinking possible. Without the first sense, the inner faculty through which the thinker perceives within rather than without, thinking has no inner object to sustain itself upon. The five senses report conditions. They report what is physically seen, heard, experienced, and measured. Their report is continuous and compelling. They do not rest, they do not pause. And without the first sense operating, thinking follows the five senses by default. It follows conditions, it follows what is without. This is the undirected mind. The first sense offers the alternative, an inner perception, a perception of the seed, of what is within, real and developing. This perception is the object of disciplined thinking. The thinker who practices their perception through the first sense gives disciplined thinking something to sustain itself upon, something real, something within, not a condition, not a surface appearance, the seed itself. And thinking sustained upon the seed through the first sense is not a blind faith, for want of a better phrase. It is a directed perception. The thinker knows what they are holding. They perceive it. They sustain thinking upon it. And thinking sustained upon what is clearly perceived within must produce clear expression without. Now, the affirmation for day 175. Pause for a moment. Thinking is within my direction. I'm aware of thinking. I direct it deliberately, from within, from what is recognized, not from what is physically seen. I do not follow conditions. I sustain thinking upon the seed, day after day, morning after morning. This is not effort, this is discipline. And discipline builds momentum, and momentum sustains development, and what is sustained unfolds. And what unfolds must physically express. Remember, by design, by focus,